A very good evening to all of you and welcome back to the day one of Digital Money organized by Payments Council of India and Lyra and powered by PhonePe. Without any further ado, let's start the panel discussion on payments fraud, the ground reality. Let me introduce our moderator for the session, Mr. Prashant Mara, partner BTG Legal. Now, let me welcome our panelist, Mr. Ketan Doshi, Managing Director and CEO, Mr. Rakshit Tandon, Director at Technology, and Mr. Anuj Bansal, Product Management PhonePe. Over to you, Mr. Mara.
Thank you, Shivani, and hello, everybody, and great to be here today to discuss this an important subject. I'm just reading out from recent news reports. Digital transactions are being preferred over cash, obviously because of the coronavirus scare. And in any case, the world was getting more and more digital. Nearly half of the Indian consumers are apparently now concerned about digital payment frauds. And in a survey conducted by a UK-based market research firm and NASDAQ-listed ACI worldwide, nearly one-third of the consumers, 31%, have been a recent victim of a card or digital payment fraud or know someone among their immediate family or friends who has. So that's a staggering statistic. So if you know 100 people, then 31 of those will have faced some sort of a payment fraud in the last 1 month or the last 6 months. The disruption that is caused by COVID has just increased the focus on this issue. And we have a stellar panel today to discuss that. As Shivani introduced, my name is Prashant Mara. I lead a firm called BTG Legal that specializes in white-collar crime and technology crimes. We have about 30 lawyers and we practice across Bangalore, Bombay, Delhi, Chennai, and other major courts. And joining me today is a stellar panel. I'll just briefly introduce Anuj, who is a fraud and risk domain specialist. He's currently the director of product management PhonePe with PhonePe and has been covering all aspects of risk from transaction fraud risk, trust and safety, identity risk, compliance, AML risk to application security risk. Great to have you with us, Anuj, and look forward to a good discussion. We have Mr. Rakshit Tandon, who is a cybersecurity evangelist and has experience of more than a decade in the security domain. He is a cybersecurity consultant to the Internet and Mobile Association of India. He is also a faculty for the cybercrime investigations at BPRD, Bureau of Public Research and Development for training of law enforcement officers across the country. He's been awarded numerous awards, and he was also recently, in 2015, awarded the Cyber Guru of the Year award by the government of Maharashtra. Mr. Tandon, we are very pleased to have you with us, and we look forward to an enlightening discussion with you. And finally, we have Mr. Ketan Doshi, who's an entrepreneur backed by 20 plus years of rich experience in business strategy, operations, resource planning, and efficient team building and guiding. He successfully founded ventures in financial services and education industry and is now leading Paypoint India as MD and CEO with a vision of making it a very fast growing consumer service company in India. Ketan, great to have you with us. And without any further ado, maybe we jump into the discussion. Ketan, maybe I'll start with you. And you've had 20 years of experience in business strategy and successfully founding ventures, including your recent one, which is Paypoint India. What has your experience been? What are the top 5 security risks in terms of payment frauds that keep you awake at night and not let you sleep? Over to you, Ketan.
So I'll just give a brief about ourselves.
Sure.
So last mile delivery of financial services. So we have 48,000 stores across the country where a consumer can walk in and access various services. So lately, if you ask me, we are under a fast track digitization mode, and thanks to Corona, thanks to demo, both of us, I mean, both the things have fast track growth on digital side. But if you ask me, the innovation on the fraud side, also, I mean, it is much faster than the growth in the digitization right now, it seems. keeps us away. If you ask me, clone sites are the biggest nightmares coming to me at this moment. Uh, and I'm sure most of the companies are facing similar kind of issue where like a website which is similar to our website or similar to other brands' website is created. To create a website, it is very fast and very easy to create a website, to host a website. But to pull it down legitimately, it is very difficult. And this is one of the biggest thing where our brand is also suffering. Customers are suffering. Uh, since we are into payment aggregation, most of the aggregation is routed through payment service providers like us, and again that leads to freezing of our accounts, facing the regulators, facing the police. So this is one of the biggest issues right now which we are facing, and it is very difficult in India at this moment to pull down a clone site, and it takes lots of time by the time a new site is created. So this is one of the biggest issue which we are facing apart from the regular phishing mails and all that are still continuing, but this is one piece. Other thing, if you every might have faced this kind of scenario, why I don't know how many few most of the viewers might have sent. You use Quicker or OLX or any other site where you sell your old stuffs. Once you load your old stuff, you will get lots of calls, and most of the issues are hovering around it. That Sab, I want to buy your car instantly at the same price. So that is too much alluring, man, at a price which is not thought of by the seller. And in that pretext, the seller offers his IDs, UPI IDs, or whatever OTPs, etc., is shared with the buyer, and the fraud happens. These are two big frauds happening in the country, and I think as a payment aggregator, it gives me a nightmare.
Thanks, Ketan. Clone sites, phishing, the regular stuff, but also you mentioned consumer awareness or lack of consumer awareness because of alluring business propositions via Quicker or OLX and phone calls pursuant to them. We'll come back to these issues and discuss this in more detail. But I'd like to now turn to Anuj. Anuj, do you want to add anything in a similar vein? What Ketan and his company are facing? Do you see that? Do you see that in your day-to-day work as well? In your company, are there other issues that bother you in the night? What keeps you awake?
A lot of things, to be very honest.
Yeah.
Security is always a nightmare, right? It's always about a cat and mouse game where you're just trying to catch these up. The ingenuity of these fraudsters has evolved over a period of time, right? So
Yeah.
I can talk back from 2013, 14, the days when there were e-commerce frauds, right? They were on the rise where the agent, they would deliver a fake, etc. as a product. Still limited to probably even back in 2017, 18, where it was a social engineering campaign where you would effectively try to convince a person one on one, right? And try to get a fraud. Especially over the last 6 months or last 1 year, what I have seen is the uh, fraudsters have started to collaborate. And what I mean by that is it is fraud as a service. So we have all heard banking as a service, software as a service, platforms as a service. Now it is coming as a fraud as a service, where, as Ketan was pointing out, right, there are these fake websites. While PhonePe itself has just taken in the last 4 months close to 300 websites down. It is right. The spawn rate is close to 1 to 2 websites a day. And you can see over there that the way they have structured it, they can offer anybody for the right price to put in their bank account details. So we've been trying to hack a few of these, and we realize that it is a full-blown industry. The rapid rate at which they are growing is like tremendous. Fraudsters, on the other hand, have also increasingly gotten more sophisticated. They have started using advertising networks. I actually couldn't imagine. I saw this over the past couple of months. is when you are on a video site, when you are on a social media site, and all of a sudden there's an ad which pops in which says that, hey, you have won something. Moment you click on that, you get redirected, and then you are on your payments app screen. And you're entering a pin, and at the end you have gotten the money away. So that kind of security is just just today, I came across a case where I think WhatsApp OTP hack is happening on a major scale in terms of people, again, social engineering compromise. But what this person has done is they have taken over another person's WhatsApp. They have started sending out bulk SMS, bulk WhatsApp messages to everybody in their contact list. They transfer money to this particular VP or this bank account. I am in need and I cannot get in touch with anybody. You need to- And even out of, let's say, any normal person has close to a 600, 700 people contact book. Even if 100 people fall for it, by the time you realize it, right, money is already gone. So just the nexus of these things, right, the use of technology, both for the fraud as well as the digital enablement, that has gone to a next new high level.
That's very interesting, Anuj. From what I can pick up from what you're saying, I think technically as well as from a modus operandi perspective, I think you're saying fraudsters have become very, very sophisticated. And everywhere they see an opportunity, they try to exploit that opportunity, be it via WhatsApp, be it via websites, cloning sites, or even using the advertising network, for example. Mr. Tandon, maybe turning to you. You obviously have very deep experience on the law enforcement side as well as on the technical side to track such fraudsters. What are the top 4 or 5 issues that you have seen in the last 12 months, 24 months?
Thank you, Prashant. And as Anuj and Ketan both mentioned, they're getting organized, no doubt about this. But with my experience, previously also and current also, whenever we catch hold of these people and fraudsters from remote areas of the country, they don't seem to be highly educated or qualified. So that is one thing which we all should also learn from. But yes, they are at a winning edge just because they are exploiting the loopholes. And if you, as rightly mentioned, they are targeting advertising now. They are targeting social media, WhatsApps and Facebook by hacking them. But they're also targeting the digital identity of users, and which is getting, because see, in current payment scenario, all the payment frameworks, my SIM card is my digital identity. Initially, when they started the SIM swapping crime, the government of India came out with a regulation that even if you as a user go and get your SIM reissued, your SMS will not start working for at least minimum 24 hours. But now they have attacked on the eSIM thing, the embedded SIM, where the latest handsets like Apple's and Samsung's, they come with this eSIM module. So they are now, with the help of data breaches, which keep on happening, they get so much of data on the dark web or on different platforms. They call the user claiming themselves to be from the mobile company, and they immediately switch over the SIM. And now once the SIM card is gone from the customer, all his digital identity is compromised, right from debit card, credit card, UPI, because everything requires a SIM authentication. So that is one which is really worrying and increasing. And second, they have poisoned the Google network, the Google search engine, with a lot of fake customer care numbers. And people, as mentioned by Ketan initially, that it is very difficult. It takes some time to pull down a duplicate or a cloned site. So these fraudsters, they have used the keyword customer care and consumer service, and they have poisoned the whole network. So suppose I am a PhonePe user and I have some trouble using PhonePe. So my first reflex is to go to Google and search for a PhonePe customer care. And if I'm doing it on a mobile handset, it takes me to some Google Map links where there is a customer care number given. And when I call this gentleman, he asked me very politely that I will immediately get your refund done. But because of social distancing and corona, you need to install a quick support application. So they are asking the consumer to install some remote support application. And in recent cases where I have got a lot of complaints, where they are also asking you to install a auto SMS forwarder. These applications are also easily available on Play Store. So this is another a very, very common trend which we are seeing. First, compromising your digital identity. Once it is done, so they can get into FDs, loans, whatever they can do. So I think this is two areas, and third is the QR code scanning thing, where people till date don't understand that when I'm scanning a QR code, the money is going out or coming in. So the debit credit concept is still not clear in the consumer's mind. So it is very easy to go to a store and scan the QR code of PhonePe and pay the money. But now this fraudster, he sends you a QR code claiming that first he will send you some 5-10 rupees so that he convinces you. And this is happening on all these common consumer platforms like OLX or Quicker or wherever I'm selling some stuff. And then they send me a reverse QR code. And when I scan that code, instead of money coming in, goes out in seconds. So these are the top lot of complaints, and I would say which is really scary, where they try to compromise your SIM card, digital identities, social media handles, because in this Corona times, everything is being digital. And we all trust this. That day also, I got one complaint where somebody has posted a fake advertisement on Facebook, and he duplicated the restaurant page, and he was offering one thali for one thali free. And it was taking the consumer to a Google form. And in that Google form, it was very well decorated with the logo of Paytm, UPI, NPPI, everything was there. And they were asking all the details. So I think, yes, consumer level awareness is very, very important, but the numbers is tremendous. So I've been working with so many state police and cyber cells, and I've been, even in this lockdown, I have done a lot of training with the LEAs, and you go to the remotest village in the country, and there you will find such cases happening, because mobile is in everybody's hands today.
Absolutely. Thank you, gentlemen. I think we kind of set the ground reality, and the ground reality seems to be pretty scary for a netizen today, because everyone, all of us live our lives, almost a parallel life on the internet, and if that is rife with potentially fraudulent transactions or fraudsters, then it's a pretty scary place to be in. Now, Mr. Tandon, maybe starting from your side, I'd like to focus on three aspects as potential way forward or solutions here. One is trust. How to build a trusted network or a trusted product or a solution. Are there any and this is open for all the panelists. We'll go with each of the panelists and ask the same question. How to build a trusted network or a community which for sure is not a fraudulent operation, for example. Are there technical watermarks, for example? Are there technical security measures that a consumer can easily verify before proceeding to scan that QR code, for example? Is there something that you have seen like this, either in India or abroad? One is that question. The second question is, combined with that trust aspect, which the industry has to provide, can the consumer awareness be created in such a way that the consumer is on the other side of the coin, also realizes that it's his or her money, and therefore they have to probably get away from easy transactions. The life has become all about ease of transaction today. Even though there is a two-factor authentication and other similar steps, consumers don't like it very often. There's always a backlash against some of these things. Is there any consumer protection or consumer awareness idea that one should discuss? Lastly, I think, which is a ground level reality, the true ground level reality, is enforcement. How is enforcement done? So maybe we start with Mr. Tandon on trust. What's your view on the ability or the capability of for all of us as an industry to build a trusted network or solution?
Prashant, I think there is a lot happening, and we all have seen in the last 10 years, we have evolved with the kind of complaints have come and the kind of products have been built across it. So cyber awareness is no doubt the key, but with the development of technology like AI and artificial intelligence and IDS, we as an organization and as a product also need to bring that trust in our product. We should learn from our mistakes. Like a simple example I would like to quote. not naming any product here, that when I traveled from my country to another country and I just switched on to their network, I on my Google account and on my free social media account, I was supposed to verify myself because suddenly my IP address changed. In 3 hours of flight, I from India, I got connected to an Emirates and I was in Saudi. So they asked me to verify. And at the same end, when I was using a payment gateway, a transaction for my country, India, there was no second level authentication. They trusted me as Rakshit Tandon just because it was the same device or something. So I think with that example, I want to say here is that we should learn now. Like, for example, we have all heard of these QR code scams going on where people are just cheated because they scan the code thinking the money is coming in. So just a simple language second level alert should generate on the screen that, hey, this is amount is going. Because see, you'll talk to many of the students also, they don't understand the difference between debit and credit. So in a simple language, agar hamare or Hindustan, and when we are talking of my country, we have to go to the general grounds also. I can today in the morning I was buying vegetables from a vendor on the Khela and I could scan the code and pay him. So, and I don't know how much of security framework does he understand. So that trust is very important from the product side, which could be learned. Awareness, a lot of programs are being done, and already government agencies, NGOs, with Internet and Mobile Association of India, since 2008, we have been doing these awareness program extensively with schools, students, parents, communities, and even as advisor to Cyber Peace Foundation, we have been doing this with law enforcement agencies. So the law enforcement agencies now have come up. Like currently, our campaign is running in Punjab Police. We call it Cyber Suraksha. We just finished a campaign in Telangana Police, in Assam Police. In every state is trying to do such activities. I think that is another way to take forward to build consumer awareness. But also, not only two-factor authentication is helping here, but putting up some controls in the product will also help. Like, for example, today I can control my cards from my mobile applications. When I'm not using them, I can simply turn it off. There's an on and off button. And even if my card is being stolen or some data has been breached, the hacker is not able to do any transaction because I am controlling my card, my limits. And similarly, like a double authentication on checking. Suppose I am in India, I am in Delhi right now, and I do a normal pattern. AI can study my pattern of transaction. And suddenly, I have done a transaction at 12 o'clock, and 12:05, there's a transaction happening from Jharkhand, Guwahati, Mewat. So at least that much of AI or intrusion detection system should be there in the products now, which should be built in by the organization on studying the pattern of the user. That, okay, this user always uses an Airtel connection. He's always in the vicinity of NCR region. In 24 hours, he travels to Delhi, Gurgaon, Noida. And now, if he is dead, then a second authentication should come in. The transaction should stop. So these protections can be built in. And yes, there is a lot which can be done by the product itself. Like, as I mentioned, this Google poisoning of Black Hat SEO, where their customers. So why not, if I search PhonePe customer care, then the first link which should appear on the screen in bold letters should be the PhonePe action. So the redressal should be made simple. And talking from the government side, cybercrime.gov.in is a big step. And you can see on the site, we are building up a financial risk module, especially, and we are testing it in Delhi. We are trying to link all the police station online. So as soon as the user reports it online on cybercrime.gov.in, it automatically connects to the nodal and the cyber cell officer. And they start doing, at least in so many cases, we have been able to stop the fraudulent payment. But then it requires a good redressal from the products also. So whether it is Paytm or PhonePe or the payment aggregator in between, so that their legal or risk system should only not be dependent on कि वो पुलिस की mail आएगी, then they will act on it. क्योंकि आपको पता है, this money speed has become very, मतलब it is too high today in terms. In the time of NEFT, RTGS, there was still some cushion to stop the payment and revert. But today, when I scan a code, it gives me a tink that gone, the money is gone.
Absolutely.
So there, I think this is what I think can be done to develop the trust and to spread awareness.
So I think I'll come to Anuj and Ketan shortly on the trusted product and trusted solution question. From a law enforcement perspective, I completely agree with you, Mr. Tandon, that like a network for the product itself, I think we ought to build a network for enforcement, effective enforcement, which at least matches the speed of the fraud. Or tries to
Yes.
match the speed of the fraud. Today, CRPC, Indian Evidence Act, these rely on archaic sections that talk about notices, that talk about magistrates' orders, etc., which don't really keep up with the speed of a fraud committed online today, anywhere in the world. Therefore, I think just like the companies should be talking, I think it is a huge requirement. The judiciary, for example, the legal departments of the companies, banks, um, as well as law enforcement agencies and the victim or alleged victim should also communicate in a fashion that they are connected to each other, and speed becomes almost second nature in the communication and
Right.
action. So going on to Anuj, are we heading towards then a more? I know that a lot of the products today in the payment space pride themselves on ease of transactions. For example, that's the key, right? I mean, accessibility, scale, ease. But are we heading towards more regulated, more multi-faceted, multi-step approach to security built into the product? For all the reasons that we discussed. Your views, please.
Sure. So yes, definitely we are moving to a MFA or a multi-factor authentication. It's not just about OTP, right? While RBI has been proactive, we have had 2FA since the very start. Even then, the fraud rate in India is quite high, and a lot of people do lose money. Right? The Even today, right? We do practice inherent risk engines. So we end up blocking close to 1 million to 2 million transactions every month, just based on the risk profiles, right, that flow through our systems, right? The problem is not that we check for location wherever possible. We check for device. We check for the entity behavior. So if Anuj has never transacted for more than 10,000 and all of a sudden there is a 1 lakh transaction which is going to come in, those do have red flags and we do block certain transactions. See, the problem is a little bit multifold post that. The first problem building trust is around awareness. I think enough has been talked about on the same topic, and we are working as an industry towards that. The second, of course, what Rakshit sir was also mentioning is around the intervention. So that is towards the product strategy, right? How do you intervene? So even today, right, what we had seen, so one of the use cases I'll tell you, we saw people on social engineering who would say, transfer to my number or just enter my number and then click on the pay button. That is how you will receive. So the moment you now enter the number, and if that is something which is an unknown contact for you, we throw up a warning. Hey, this is not somebody who you trust. Do you really want to transfer funds to this person? Unfortunately, that has also become a muscle memory, and people are just clicking through and going out. The other steps, right? One is towards the law enforcement agency. Now, this might be a slightly controversial. I do believe that cybercrime should be centralized in India. Primary reason for that is a bank account holder. Let's say I have a Rajasthan bank account sitting in Bangalore. The fraud happened by a caller based out of Mumbai, and the money went to a region in West Jamtara, and the money withdrew in West Bengal. Right now, you're talking about six LEAs actually trying to coordinate for a 20,000 rupees fraud. That is not going to happen. I think we need to have, while every state has had its own cybercrime police station, a lot of this, right, to break the backbone of this industry, the fraudsters, right, today they need to be held accountable, right? They need to get punished. So that is something which is definitely needs to come up. The other points are around on the data sharing, right? So as Ketan is there, as I'm there, right? As the entire industry, we are working in isolation while these fraudsters are collaborating much better than us. We as an industry need to come together to make sure that a same fraudster cannot fraud on multiple platforms. There have been some steps that have been with RBI, with a couple of other folks as well. So those entities itself need to get blocked, because why are we allowing somebody to use the same phone number to fraud on 10 different platforms, right? The last or the second last piece I have is towards the enforcement, which is basically as an industry. Let's say if today I get to know that my one of my customers or my users has been defrauded, unfortunately, since the money moves through a very complex intermediary stage, we are unable to block it. That is where we need to figure out how do we work together as an industry, because we need to block that amount from going out. The moment it goes out of an ATM, it becomes cash, it is untraceable. So therefore, till the time it is in the digital ecosystem, we need a way to capture that out. Last one definitely is around the legal. I think you are more qualified around on that. But yes, some of the laws, a lot of the acts that are being applied, they either give an absolute power in terms of freezing that bank account completely, or basically they don't do anything, right? At the end of the day, it just becomes a case file and we get it to close it. So therefore, I think those are like the different actions that we need to have the people to trust. Because at the end, if a common man loses money, right, he doesn't care about anything else. How big a company is, how good the fraud systems are, how good is the legal system. At the end, if he gets back his money, I think that is the value add that we have to do as a industry and as risk professionals to the customer.
Thanks, Anuj. Sorry, I think I was on mute. I think those were all extremely valid points. I'd just like to react to 2 points. One is, I think centralization of cybercrime enforcement is absolute. I fully agree with you. I even go to the extent of saying not only the cybercrime police should be centralized, but cybercrime judicial, courts should also be specialized and centralized, because, like you say, not only jurisdiction of where to file the FIR, but when you in the use case that you described with 6 jurisdictions, which magistrates court will get jurisdiction to try? That's the second big question that comes up. So I think a very, very fresh thinking is required in terms of enforcement, law enforcement, as well as judicial intervention in the aspects that you mentioned. And Ketan, turning to you, what are your reactions? Do you share, what Anuj just said in terms of not only product trust building within the product, but also strengthening sharing of information and legal and judicial intervention?
So of course, I mean, both Mr. Tandon and Mr. Anuj, what they are referring is the real issue at this moment. There's no close coordination between the agency. There are cyber cells across the country, but most of the cyber officers are not really equipped to deal with this situation. So if a cyber cell wing in a small village or small district will be operating in a different manner vis-a-vis a cyber cell operating from Mumbai or Delhi. So the way they act to a situation is very different. Mostly, the quickest thing can be we'll get a mail from the cyber cell to freeze an account. Now, freezing an account is a very fast action which can be expected from them. But why it was freezed, whether it should be freezed, uh, under what section it has been freezed, whether the money trail is actually lying with them or it is gone ahead. I'm telling you, we have dealt with the situation. It only takes half an hour for any criminal to actually withdraw the money from an ATM. It is half an hour is also, I'm sure Anuj and Tandon might have seen it across. So maximum half an hour is the tag for a criminal to actually move out money out of the system. So within this time, I find it difficult for our system, the current system, to really get the criminal, you know, get the money getting logged into that would be very difficult. So for us at this moment, I would recommend is we need to have strictly law around the payment, around the payment, around the payment, around the payment. We have all the guidelines in place, but there are no laws which stops an advertiser to do a qualified advertisement for a site registration, whether we are following right KYCs to register a site online, whether we have an SMS guy allowing SMS to a right person. So this needs to be filtered now. The ecosystem around the payments should be strengthened in order to get this thing in place.
Ketan, I think that's a really, really good point. I think the ecosystem around the payments network needs to be strengthened. And I think that kind of summarizes all the discussions we've been having over the last 45 minutes. I think from a enforcement perspective and from in the courts, we as lawyers work with two cardinal principles. You either follow the money or you follow the person. And unfortunately, you're right that police are still used to following the money, and therefore the immediate quick thing that they can do is to freeze the account, to show that action has been done. And frankly speaking, the laws don't give them any further quick reaction remedies at the moment either. Now, one last question to Mr. Tandon, and then perhaps we can look at some questions. There are quite a few that have come up on the board. Mr. Tandon, from the discussions have been having for the last 45 minutes, it looks like these are well-planned operations. It looks like there are certain individuals or groups that are planning and executing these frauds on a regular basis. It still surprises me that we have not been able to make some examples out of some of these major groups, for example, fraudsters or criminal organizations. I agree that quick reaction may not be possible given the current legal system and given the enforcement capability at this stage. But I'm assuming that digital footprints will be there, or fingerprints will be there, leading to 1, 2, 3, 10, 100 people successively on a very regular basis over the last 12 months, 24 months, 36 months. Why can't law enforcement target some of these individuals just to make an example and to use it as a test case to see how can things work? Or are they doing it and we are not aware of it, is the other way to put this question. Mr. Tandon, you're on mute.
Sorry. Prashant, they've been successful. We have busted so many rackets, even in, if I mention Uttar Pradesh, Haryana, Madhya Pradesh has done, Mumbai itself, Bangalore, Kolkata cyber cell, and the same organized rackets have been busted. They've been picked up in like numbers. Recently, there was a big fraud of about 63 to 64 lakhs by a SIM swapping case from Jamtara, and our Lucknow cyber cell, they got hold of around 4 people from that place, and they were arrested and they were brought to Lucknow. Yes, as Anuj rightly mentioned, that jurisdiction is the biggest issue. They become organized because initially there was no deterrent. And even if we look at the IT Act, where actually these cybercrime cases are referred to, IPC plus IT Act, then even in IT Act, the maximum punishment they go through is 3 years.
3 years.
And with a 1 lakh rupee fine. And the time taken to prove the digital evidence again is a big, you can say, a challenge, because finally we have got 8 certified labs as of now in the whole country, and that too happened in 2018. So that is another challenge for the LEA. So LEA does the job, they arrest the people, they send the devices and all for fingerprinting and forensics. But then the court process starts. So if you look at the figures in NCRB also, the National Crime Record Bureau, the acquitting is very less. So the fear is not there. So even if the hacker, he says that I am earning 10 lakh rupees per month as an organized criminal, 10 lakh per day as an organized criminal, and you are arresting me for a fine of 1 lakh rupee and 3 years of jail, I'm okay. After 3 years, I will continue. But first you give me a full punishment. So I think there is from the law enforcement and the government side, I think we should have a strict amendment in the laws looking at the rise in cyber crimes and the number. Then rightly mentioned, until unless we don't have a central system, we will not wait for a central police like CBI to form. I don't know what time it will take. But the initiative I4C has taken, we should work with that initiative, the Indian Cybercrime Coordination Center, of at least bridging them together. And if all these cybercrimes cells get connected, I think there will, we can see good results coming in. Arresting has been there. I can give you hundreds of cases in the last, I'm talking to you, and the Punjab Police Cyber Intelligence has busted a wonderful racket of these fraudsters. And it was a very good case study for all of us to understand the different modus operandi they were using. The Ludhiana Police Cyber Unit has just busted, and they have arrested, I think, around tune of 15 to 20 people, and a big gang has been busted. So, but yes, the challenge is that the knowledge sharing is not there. And secondly, we need strict changes in the laws now, not only in the fraud domain, but also in the space of obscenity and child pornography and stuff, which is also increasing in parallel. And it's been 2008. The IT Act was made in 2000, amended in 2008, and we are sitting in 2020 with the digital economy. So 126 crore people are having Aadhaar card and 100 crore are on mobiles. So I think, yes, it is high time we bring some strong changes in the laws, and that will create the deterrent in these rackets. And finally, when they are busted, so they will also get fearful.
Great. No, thank you, Mr. Tandon. I think if I were to summarize, we are looking at, again, the three pillars, which is enforcement, strengthening the judiciary, strengthening our laws in order to kind of quicken the process, building trusted network solutions, and then awareness. Thank you, gentlemen. I think that kind of summarizes our discussion very well. I think we've run out of time, but I'll do a very quick rapid fire round of questions. I request all of you to keep it short, maybe 20-30 seconds for each question. A lot of these questions we've already answered, so I won't ask again all of the questions. One question for Mr. Tandon. Who is liable in the case of fraud, bank or PSP? Mr. Tandon, I think you're on mute.
We have very clear guidelines from RBI, and we have to follow those guidelines. If the user is at fault, and then the user has to bear the money. But like cases of cloning and cases of money being transacted abroad, where you find, or there is a case of identity theft at the service provider level. So in that cases, there can be liability on the second person. But and then also RBI has clearly mentioned that the complaint should be filed within 3 days of the crime and the incidents, and it has to be reported to both. And once it has been reported to both, after that, if there is further drain of money, then again the bank will be liable, or the money holding company will be liable. So that is what the RBI latest guideline says, and we have to follow that.
Absolutely. One for Anuj: how to streamline and simplify the reporting and resolution process for end customers.
So we are working on some of this. One is basically we, at least on our website, in our app, we have made the option to report a fraud very easy, right? You can just click on a transaction and report it out. The moment you do that, as next step, what we are doing, also starting to do is inform your beneficiary bank and the remitter bank. This in turn should help us in bringing the overall money movement down, at least from the next level out. But from a customer viewpoint, again, it depends. If it is, let's say, a wallet or a merchant payment, for clear visibility into, we track it and close it out with the customer. If it is a peer-to-peer or an external UPI transaction, visibility, and at best we can inform in terms of where that money has gone to.
Okay, great. Thanks, Anuj, for that succinct summary. And the last one for Ketan, something that you have already touched upon, Ketan, in your discussion, but maybe you can elaborate. How can fintechs, banks, and regulators collaborate to effectively reduce the number of frauds and successful resolutions?
So we need to have a centralized agency to coordinate between the entire stakeholders, right from regulators, the local police station, the central police station, the home ministry. We need a coordinated effort at all the levels. Then this lacuna can be plugged. And the officers needs to be really a new tech enabled officers heading there.
Thank you. Thank you, Ketan. I think those are absolutely bang on in terms of relevance. Anuj, Ketan, Mr. Tandon, thank you very much once again for being part of the panel. It was a pleasure to host you all. And back to you, Shivani.
Thank you to all our esteemed panelists for such a wonderful conversation. Thank you to our audience as well. Special thanks to our gold partners, Visa, Freshworks, AWS, and silver partner, Zeta, Paytm, and our knowledge partner, PwC. Thank you, everyone. Please stay tuned. We have a day 2 coming tomorrow for the session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you, Ketan. Thank you, Anuj. Thank you. Thank you, Prashant.
Thank you.
Bye.